Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
Newsfirst NewsLine with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
A very good morning to you. We are joining with you live from the Newsfirst Center in Colombo. I am Chaturanga Hapuarachi. As we know already, Faraz Shaukat Ali is in England spending time with his family for the holiday season. Now, we are going to talk to an interesting person today. A guest who has not been a stranger on this show, has been there, I think, more times than I have.
Good morning,
Mr. Chrishmal, Warnasuriya. Interesting person always to talk to. Now, Mr. Warnasuriya, let's get to the topic straight away. Now, today is the O-level examination, and parents, students, teachers, everyone has worked hard for 11 years to get that particular child to the exam hall. But we see that once again the public sector of our country, the public services, has failed, and there is an ongoing strike. We see strike actions when it comes to the medical sector, health sector of our country. Now we see it in the transport sector. Where are we heading, and is this the right way?
Good morning, Chaturanga. Once again, pleasure to be on your August show. And may I say that you're doing justice to the program, although they said NewsLine with Faraz Shaukat Ali, they must put your name also now. No, I think, Chaturanga, this is an endemic problem to us. Everyone is only self-centered. We only think of ourselves. Now, I heard when I was coming in the morning on the news today that someone has said, I do not know how accurate the figures are, that some of these people who are striking are earning in excess of 200,000 rupees a month. Now, if you are in fact doing that, you are earning 4 times more than what the state itself says is the average income of a Sri Lankan citizen. Now, whilst you're earning that, if indeed your battle is for more enhancement of your pay, I really think that we need to think again, because in as much as we shout, now these very people take shelter in the constitution, no shouting for their fundamental rights, that they say have a right to protest. That is the argument that they're bringing even against Essential Services Gazette. They say we have a right, a constitutional right to protest. Now in that very constitution, at Article 28, Chaturanga, a very interesting statement is there, that in as much as you uphold and fight for what you think are constitutional rights, there is a duty, there is a fundamental duty, fundamental rights, a fundamental duty upon every Sri Lankan to work conscientiously in his or her chosen occupation and make sure that public assets are protected and not set to waste. Now, how many of us are looking at a fundamental duty? I dare say there may be a grievance. There may be a grievance. But as you say, all these must be weighed against the interests of the economy. Are we not, I mean, are we to be naive enough to think that they did not know, going on a strike at this moment, they were going to put the lives of hundreds of thousands of children in peril who were going to do an ordinary level exam in a country where all of us are looking at a certificate to see how far we can get in life? No. That's another problem that we can discuss in another forum.
Yes.
But our lives, our children's lives, yours and mine, when we leave school, our parents, late nights, your feet in buckets of water, someone probably might even tie their hair up to a roof, and you're reading to get through a O-level certificate.
Yes.
And your entire life depends on that. And you're putting all of that in peril. No?
Now, Mr. Warnasuriya, now the other part, I want to take the attention to the government side. Now, every time someone comes forward and protests, we see that they make it very quickly, they make it an essential service. Next time we see some guys here at Newsfirst or some other news station protesting, they'll make news also. Is that the trend they're setting?
Well, this is once again, I dare say they had no option but to make it an essential service, and that's under the authority of the government. When you require something to be essential, you can do that. But whether a government can or should indeed resort to such action, now I go back on the argument I made earlier, to curtail a constitutional right. Because everyone has a constitutional right to join a trade union, to protest, to protect their professional occupation, and to organize protests in that manner. So there is a fundamental right. Of course, these fundamental rights must, as I said, be weighed against the public interest at any time. Courts of law do not think that fundamental rights are absolute. That, putting an entire country at peril, you can go on strike and say it's a fundamental right that I have. These are weighed upon a balance when you go to court. But whether a state should have resorted to this is a question that the state, that the government of a day, as I always say, governments come and go. State is continuous. So when a government is formed by a political unit or 2 or 3 units as we have today, they must come to. Now, going back to that decision, do you know how many people have sat in this so-called place that we make decisions yesterday out of the 225? 60.
Only 60.
Only 60. Now I was told today in the morning on the news that 60 people out of the 225 were only in this August assembly that we send to make laws on our behalf, because you and I don't have the time to do it. We have to make a living, so we pay a salary, give them a jeep, give them air travel, business class travel, cornflakes food for breakfast, and biryani lunch and all that, and send them there. Out of those biryani persons, only 60 have 225 come to parliament yesterday. Out of that, only 44 have voted for some bill, I heard in the morning. 44 is what the percentage of 225? If only 44 people voted for this particular policy, out of 225, that's not even, I don't know, my maths is not that good, because at O levels I didn't do that well at maths, but what take the count, you at home, and see, that's, I don't think that's even 1/5.
Yeah.
So we have now been governed by a decision made by not even 1/5 of the people that you have elected and sent there. So I ask the question to you, don't kill the messenger, don't blame me. Yeah. I'm asking you the question, have you sent, whether it's local government, provincial government or national government, have you sent the right people there?
Now, interesting words there. Now, we see today, the newspapers are reporting that political parties are nominating criminals. Now, this is said by the March 12th movement. Now, the March 12th movement came forward back in the day when
all of us fought.
Yes, and said, look, you urge the political parties to put out candidates that have no indictments or no criminal allegations against them. And we saw that to a certain degree in the first few months of the 100 days government, the government when it came in power. But now what has happened is, now the March 12th, that same movement is coming forward again and saying, look, this is what's happening, political parties are putting forward criminals. Now, when this happens, how will the public representation be taken to the local government? Will the aspirations of the people actually be in those institutions?
Chaturanga, superb question, but I'm going to qualify my answer by giving it once again 2 answers. One is, the law assumes one to be a criminal only when one is proven before a court of law to be a criminal. No. So until that, all of us are entitled the presumption of innocence, that we are presumed innocent until proven guilty, right? So now, particularly in a day and age where systems of judicial activity, police or whether you would see prosecution, are being apparently used for political gain or to obtain political benefit. If people are being threatened by arrest or whatever, you must also think, now that can't be in the public mind a criminal, because one has not been proven guilty before a court of law. On the other side, as you say, if there are known culprits, RI something, they were recorded, IRC. They were recorded as known criminals. I mean, you know, and some of these fellows, you don't actually have to record them. When you look at them, you know that they're not criminals. Now, if you are nominating people like that, surely I think this is a good opportunity, particularly for our local authorities. Now, coming up, for you to give an answer back and say, because I always say, the question goes to political will. You follow? All these political parties, just like the March 12th movement is saying, I mean, we said this in 2015 January, to the people's movement that made this change in the country. And we said that allow the people, even through your parties, to make a choice that they want. Don't put a list of people in front of the list of persons that you think are going to be favorable to you, either by way of money or by popularity, cheap popularity at that, or whatever, and then tell the citizens to vote on them. The citizens must also have a right to decide on who's coming in the list. Definitely. Now, if the parties are not giving you that, I'm telling you, send the answer back to the parties. This time you look at the person, don't look at the party. Get beyond your political color, green, blue or red or whatever it is that you think your ancestors have belonged to. Think like a citizen ought to think. What is the policy? And then look at the person and then vote. And that way you can give a message back to the party. However much you put culprits before us, we are not going to vote for it.
Now, Mr. Warnasuriya, when you take a look at what's happening in our country, there are the farmers saying one thing, they don't have urea, the proper fertilizer, and then they're saying, look, if we don't have the fertilizer on time, we don't have the money, by April we'll have a situation where we do not have rice. Now we see the transport sector in turmoil. The train engine locomotive union is having a strike action going on. People are not happy of what's happening in our country, yet we see the number of local government representatives going up by double. Then the privileges that should be provided to them will double. Then more money allocated, I think in billions, will be going for the local government elections. Yes, we understand the people, the public should have their right to exercise their franchise. This is the constitution, the law and everything. That's all there. But wasting money like this in a country where we do not have money for even the normal things, the proper things that we have to do. What are we doing?
Chaturanga, this headline today and what you're saying now is a vicious cycle that I'd like to take 2 minutes of your time and elaborate, if I may, so that at least through our discussions people understand that we need to break this cycle. We have economic wants, as you say. This is a country where mothers are taking their infants and jumping into rivers because they can't buy them a cup of milk, right? Then this is a country where fathers come home from work, take the children, kill the mother and kill the elder children, and the younger child give poison and they die, saying at least we will have better life in heaven. Right? On one side of the scale you have that, and on the other side, as you say, we are increasing public expenditure upon so-called representatives for what? Representatives to give us what we want, no? That is why, as I said earlier, we send elected representatives, whether it's a local body or provincial body or national body. We elect people because unlike ancient Athens and Sparta in ancient Greece, all of us can't sit under olive trees and eat olives and start making decisions. So we send some people and pay them a salary to do this for us. You follow? Now, if these people are actually serving us, this vicious cycle couldn't operate, no? We are under-nutritious, our children. Our economy is below par. We have recently been named, not that I give much prominence to all these categorizations, because I think there are vested interests there also, but whether you like it or not, one of the most 4 corrupt countries in the world. And we have been named with some godforsaken countries that names also we don't even mention sometimes. Right? One of the 4 most corrupt countries in the world. So obviously there is a big hole in this bucket. People are working. Some people are doing not 1, 2, 3 jobs just to keep their children educated and just to put at least 1 meal a day on the table. On the other side, as you know, as you just said, we are increasing the number of so-called elected representatives elected to serve us. And if they are doing their job, whether at local level, provincial level or national level, of making policy, you see, of making policy, this Chaturanga, the corruption that you and I speak of stems from that. Because we are not making policy that will benefit us either for health, for education, for national economy or whatever. But we are very, very good, all these politicians, when there is a calamity, to go and give some kehel gediya or a pang gediya, go in a boat and give them, right? Or when there is lack of water, to everyone is some sahana seva, all of us get a photograph on TV and go and give water. You follow? We do not give the people a policy-based approach how to solve their problems. We like those people to be subservient to us politicians. Why? Because when the election comes, they know, so from the time the child is born, the child is sent to school, until even your funeral, you want a politician to be around you. Why? Because you think that political subterfuge, political affiliation is going to help you live. And we have not, the politicians have not made policy, but they have made a subservient generation that's subservient to them. You need to break this cycle.
Now, Mr. Warnasuriya, now, interesting text message I have here. Now, we saw a recent, in the cricketing field, we saw a bit of a glimpse of hope when our fellows defeated India. Finally. Yeah. A new record, let's say.
Yes.
Now Sri Lanka has also set a new, other new record.
What is that?
Sri Lanka sets new world record. International Parliamentary Association reveals that Sri Lanka is the country with the highest number of ministers in the world. Congo, Cameroon and Ecuador follow. So
Congo,
Cameroon and Ecuador.
Oh,
so
lovely countries to be in par with.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what to ask you next, but I'm going to move on. Now, now we see a situation where several people who were with Vimal Weerawansa, parliamentarian, leaving the party, the National Freedom Front, and coming and saying, look, we need to support the president, we need the president.
That's a Shaktimat Kara.
Yes, this was the story back then also. Now we see a repetition of everything happening again. Now this crossing over. Now I want to mention one other thing to you as well. Now we see the nominations being handed in at where the Podujana Perumuna coming in, the Flower Bud, the UNP, the JVP, all of these fellows coming in. But is there a situation where the B report or any police report pertaining to that candidate is required as per your knowledge?
I wouldn't be able to tell you offhand, Chaturanga, because I have not read the recently amended Local Authorities Elections Act on the Act itself. But certainly, I think we had to, I remember my name was also on some national list.
Yes.
We had to give certain documentation. I believe there was a Grama Seva certificate there that was called for. But I'm not too sure, Chaturanga.
Yeah.
I can't.
Because why I'm asking you this.
But whether there's a police clearance certificate, I do not know. But I dare say, why not make it? Why not make it compulsory? Even if not a police clearance certificate, I'm saying this. Now, even those certificates can be forged if one wants. I mean, this is a country where you can forge much more important documents than a police certificate. No, you are. What I'm trying to say, Chaturanga, go beyond that. Give the power back to the people. You know, particularly in your local authority, this is not general election. You know, in your local authority, if someone you know whether someone has been corrupt. Yeah. Don't vote for them. You have the biggest certificate in your hand, your right of franchise. Don't vote for people that you think are corrupt. That's all.
No, the thing is, why I'm asking you this question is, even if you're hiring a janitor to a normal company.
When we take on a driver, we ask them not to bring a police certificate.
Simple things, and we are sending people into parliament, local government authority, without checking any of their background. They can be involved in any matter of the sort, and yet we elect them very happily and say, look, here's my vote for you, take all that you have from me, and enjoy. So that's why I asked you that question. Getting back to our friends from the National Freedom Front.
Yes.
Now, this has been the case from the past. From time immemorial, we have seen crossovers. But we thought that when this government came into power, the good governance government, this system will have some sort of barrier for this, a stoppage of these crossovers and this happening.
You must understand, Chaturanga, that a traditional Westminster system of governance has something called a conscience vote. That you can move across the well of the house in terms of what you think is conscience. So, for example, if you were part of a government in the parliament, as you know, unlike, although we don't have opposition and a ruling party, everyone is in the ruling party, everyone is the opposition in our parliament. I'll come to that in a minute. In a traditional Westminster form of government where there is an opposition, a shadow cabinet, shadowing the actions of a cabinet, right? In a proper Westminster system, you can, if you're part of a governing party, according to your conscience, if you don't believe that the policy that is by your party or your governing party or coalition is against your wish, your conscience, you can make a statement and cross over. That democratic right is available to members. But now you must think, why are these people crossing over their conscience? You the people, are you blind? I mean, do you think that they have come to actually Jayata Shaktimat Karan? Or have they come to Shaktimat find their own hands? You follow? You must ask that question from yourself. Now, if that is so, particularly in a parliament where, Chaturanga, as you know, the people that we elected as an opposition at the last election, and now some of them have crossed over and made government.
Yes. Some ministers.
Yeah. So now I don't know what conscience that they had. Then some people who we elected could not form a government. There was no general party that commanded a general majority. So some fellows crossed over, although they were actually elected as an opposition, and that's the Shaktimat Karanda, and they came and sat on the government side. Right? Now there is a government. Now therefore, technically we don't have a proper opposition. Because now what we call the opposition leader actually has about 16 or 15 votes in the house. Then who we call the leader of the main opposition whip, chief opposition whip, has only 6 seats in that house. But it's a chief opposition whip position. So now you can't, after going into parliament, you can't share out positions like this and, well, you have this, I'll give you this, and all of us join together and sing, the more we are together, the merrier will be. That's not Westminster form of government. In my argument, this entire form of governance is wrong. So now the people must now look at all of it. I say, ultimately, I am sorry for saying this, but I cast the blame back upon ourselves, because it is us who elect the leaders, and there is an old saying, we get the leaders we deserve. We get those people that we deserve. No one else comes from the moon and votes in Sri Lanka. We vote. So when you are casting your valuable vote, you need to think of who do you send to represent me.
Now, let me get to my final point for the day. Now, since we are talking about the people, we have come to an interesting point. Now, all of us seem to be, the politicians also make a joke about this. They say that we are people that forget very fast. They say the normal memory span of a Sri Lankan is about 3 weeks. So after 3 weeks, you're like, right, okay, it's done. We also say, I saw this on a popular stand-up comedy show recently as well, that we are a group that forgives and forgets.
Yeah.
I want to drag your attention to another portion of that in a bit, but before we go there, let me ask you, why do we forgive and forget? Should we forgive and forget?
So that's the way that we have been brought up in our culture, no, Chaturanga. Again, when we were in school and all that, also we were told, no, you don't carry enmity forward. You know, shake hands, forgive and forget. Right? And our Buddhist culture that is followed by a majority of our citizens is also this, no, nahi verene verani. You follow the famous speech that one of our presidents went to the UN and gave, yes. And we became a good friend of Japan after that, no, over the reparations that they wanted to charge from Japan. President Jayawardena said, nahi verene verani, and they accepted it. So it's a culture that, okay, you come and even hit me on the head, that's okay. After a few days, you smile with me, I smile with you, and we share a cup of tea and we forgive and forget. No, but I don't really know or think whether you ought to elevate that to a political sphere. Because no sooner you do that, Chaturanga, there is an old single saying, no, so we need to think of those sayings also. In politics, don't go to forgive and forget all the time, because the more sooner you forgive and forget. Politicians think they can come and smile at you and give a banana or a loaf of bread during a flood, and think they'll forgive and forget and then vote for you. You follow? That is good as a human being when you are living. I say it's, whether it's taught by Lord Buddha or Lord Jesus Christ or any other religions that are followed in the country, it's a good concept. You know, you don't carry enmity forward, and you live as human beings do. You know, you shake a hand and that's it, all forgotten. But I don't think politically you must take that same decision, forgiving and forgetting politicians who have manifestly shown that they are corrupt continuously.
Mr. Warnasuriya, now to my other portion that I promised that I will ask from you. Now the people, when we talk about the people of this country, we see the social media playing a vital role. People coming forward and expressing their views candidly on social media. Most of the time the media is the victim of this, but we see a person coming forward and
also use social media.
Yes. So one person comes forward and says, look, this is wrong. The government or this minister or this parliamentarian has done something wrong. And then the media picks up on that. 2-3 weeks later, we see that same person saying, look, the media is not doing their job properly. You should not attack this person to this extent. And all of a sudden, the person who committed the crime is, you know, out of the picture.
And the media is under.
Someone else, completely different, is under the picture. Why does this happen? Once again,
political expedience. Two words, political expediency. This is why we continue to shoot the messenger, Satura. Your station, who I always say done a very good service, particularly during that run-up to where we were, lots of people even scared to speak out names. Your station did the massive service, and media does an amazing service, and that is why across the world, media is now considered the fourth pillar of democracy. Because you have your three traditional forms of government, the executive, the judiciary and the legislature, but the media, being a much more freer form of government, brings a message to the thinker, the voter, the person who makes a choice. So you can't blame them, shoot the messenger, and just because you think that, okay, well, now the messenger is not giving messages that we like. As long as the messenger is giving messages that we like, they are good. But when they start saying what is actually true, but which may not be particularly beneficial to you, then they become wrong. So I don't agree with that shooting the messenger concept at all. But also, once again, think that this nation needs to wake up from our slumber. Saturanga, going back to earlier point of forgetting and forgetting. Remember when during the height of the war, 1996, we won the Cricket World Cup, since you mentioned cricket. 1996 Cricket World Cup we won, And even Velupille Prabhakaran, who was waging a war against Sri Lanka on one side, and the Sri Lanka army stopped fighting for 3 days. An Australian paper reported headlines say, cricket mad country ceases fighting over World Cup victory. You follow? So we are a nation that can, that's why they say in those days when 18 people die of a bomb, next day you say, how much have a boy scored? 200 for no loss. Excellent. You forget how many people have died the previous day with the bomb. Sri Lankans need to be a bit more responsible, and I think we also have a duty as those people who, with the O-levels coming out, those people who have passed the O-levels, let's say, at least passed the O-level general certificate, to educate those others who may not have had the benefit of that education, that this is how you need to vote politically. You need to look at policy. You need to look at health, education, transport. What is it that is policy based rather than looking at personalities and individuals and cricket players and film stars and TV stars.
With time very quickly running out, Mr. Warnasuriya, I wish I had more time to talk with you about this, but I'm going to ask you an important question now. Now we see, if you take a look at, you have been working abroad, overseas as well. Now we see that when parliamentarians or ministers of a different country speak, they have their own team to compile that speech. And every single word in that paper that they read have a certain meaning.
Researchers, they're called
researchers, and they have that meaning. And that is what they deliver, and they don't want to put unnecessary trouble on themselves by saying unwanted things. They know what they're talking about, basically. But we see here in our country, if you just put the mic on to any politician,
they're experts at everything.
They're experts at everything, and half of the things they say do not make sense. And at the end of the day, that leads to a different problem altogether, sometimes racial in nature, sometimes some other problem. Why can't our politicians, is it the education or is it the lack of we can't say the lack of experience, because they are all been there for a long time.
They do their trips for every 6 months to other countries, they know how these people.
But why does this happen?
Chaturanga, some man recently said, no, when he was asked what mega police was, he said a big police force, right? A mega police is a big police force. Now that person would not have made that statement, like you say, if they had researchers, 3 or 4 say, a research on economics, right? We have enough undergraduates and graduates without jobs now, right? So it's just a matter of, once again, putting the things in place which these people are not interested in doing, right? Economics, maybe law and policy or governance, and maybe science areas. We have 3 or 4 who will advise you on a particular issue. Not just politicians, Chaturanga, even judges. Now, recently, we've been having conversations that our judges also, when they go to write a judgment, they do not have the time, a lot of time, to research that particular angle. They need researchers. Everyone that makes decisions, including politicians who make statements like megapolis, need researchers to tell them, sir, this is the area, this is what you need to do. Now, why you don't do it is one thing. I think most of our politicians are too arrogant. They want to be pundits, jack of all trades. They don't realize they're masters of none. Right? You look at that Singapore cabinet, everyone has at least a minimum master's degree.
Yes.
Right? And they only have about 20 odd people. And if you look at bigger democracies, millions of people, much more, 20, 30 ministers, and they are all qualified. I'm not saying that everyone must have a master's degree, but at least if like you say, if you don't have a degree, get some people who have degrees to advise you. You don't even do that. You think you know everything. And what have we done? Thinking that you know everything for the last 70 odd years since we gained independence. What have we done? We have gone backwards and backwards and backwards and never going forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warnasuriya, for being here with us this morning on our show, The Newsline. As always, very interesting to talk to you, and thank you very much for your opinions. Now, we will have the show running until the 29th without Faraz. Me and Shamir Rasuldin will be hosting the show, and we'll see some interesting guests coming on the show during this time. We also have a special program lined up for the 25th, the Christmas Day, where Newsline has been done with a little twist, and we have a set of gifts for the politicians of our country. So we ask you to watch this special show that we have put in place on the 25th. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thanks,
Warnasuriya.
Good to be on.
So that's all we have for you for the day. Thank you for joining us. We'll join you tomorrow, same time, same place.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.